Hello, everybody that is joining. We'll give it about one more minute and then we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. In the meantime, while we are preparing to get started, we just want you to drop in the chat your name and your organization, and where you're based out of. I want to make sure that that chat is working for everybody. All right. I see 0 to 5. All right. I see 0 to 5. Help Me Grow Maine. Impact Center, Denver, prenatal to 3. All right. So if anybody is just joining, we are just dropping and asking that you drop in the chat your name, your organization, and where you're based out of. And we're going to go ahead and get started for the sake of time. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Laura Coleman. I'm the Advocacy Media Relations Manager for Voices for Healthy Kids and the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers. And my co-host is going to introduce herself really quickly as well.
Hi folks, my name is Yui Wase. I'm the Associate Grants Administrator for Voices for Healthy Kids and also work within the NCIT.
Thank you, Yui. So today we are going to be sharing, Today we're going to be sharing how Voices for Healthy Kids can help you reach your campaign goals. And so today we're going to talk about the non-cost technical assistance and coaching our seasoned advocacy consultants provide. So we're going to learn about our available tools, trainings, and capacity building support for prenatal to 3 policy advocacy campaigns that are available. So during this session, you're going to learn more about each of our offerings and consultation and how to access them as you strive to reach your campaign goals. So if that sounds good with everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. So next slide. So a few housekeeping rules. This webinar, if you've joined, I'm sure you've already received the pop-up. The webinar recording and slides will be emailed at the end of this presentation. So of course, we're going to be recording. This is a large group of people and we are so excited for you all to be here. So with that, we're asking that everyone mutes their microphones and keep them muted until the end for our question and answering session. If you need any tech support, please connect with Andrea Guarnero. That's her name. So make sure you connect with her if you need any support. And raise your hand or enter questions in the chat. So we will have some folks in the chat that will be actively answering some of your questions throughout this presentation. So if you come up with something that you and myself are talking about and you have a question about it, we do have some people that are prepared to answer those questions in the chat for you. If you have a physical question where if time allots, you can come off mute at the end of the presentation when we have our question and answering session. All right, thank you. So next slide. So our objectives today. So many of you have already heard or probably have seen our Power Prism framework. And so what we're going to do is spotlight on how campaigns can access support from Voices for Healthy Kids. So we're going to talk about who are Voices for Healthy Kids and the NCIT, the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers. What support and consultation do we offer campaigns? The non-cost consultation. And we're going to have an in-depth discussion of Voices for Healthy Kids consultation and how you can use it. Okay, next slide. So Voices for Healthy Kids works to improve and advance equitable policies that make the places where kids and families live, learn, and play healthier. So our work seeks to address the inequities and racism that exist in current systems and policies that have marginalized or excluded some communities, including Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian American, and Pacific Islander communities and families with low incomes. Slide. So what we do here, we build and advance evidence-based and promising policies. We increase capacity for advocacy of community-based organizations, and we strengthen and mobilize diverse networks. So that is what the Voices for Healthy Kids does. Next slide. So our National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers. So the NCIT is an education and advocacy movement committed ensuring that every child prenatal to 3 and their families have what they need to thrive. And the connection between Voices for Healthy Kids and National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers is that we also staff the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers.
Thanks, Laura. And so getting to the meat of our presentation today is how Voices for Healthy Kids supports campaigns. And first, I want to just say what we mean by campaigns. And it's anything to do with moving policy forward that impacts expectant parents, infants, toddlers, and their families forward. And we do that through our consultation. And so we support advocacy campaigns in a variety of ways that you'll learn about today to help you plan and execute your campaign. And what that looks like is it starts with a conversation, and you'll get connected to one of our consultants or staff member, and they will connect you to tools and resources and work through them with you. One-on-one coaching on any campaign tactics. We can provide trainings for organizations, coalitions, and bigger groups like conferences. And we can also provide connections, whether that's connecting you to other campaigns across the nation that are working on similar policy issues, national organizations that can maybe support you with research or networking opportunities, as well as potentially local organizations that may be important stakeholders to your campaign. Next slide. Great. And so, hold on, we got a little pop-up. So who will be providing this consultation? So we have a team of consultants here. Many of them kind of specialize in certain policy issue areas, and their names or faces may be familiar to you because they staff the NCIT peer groups. And some of the issue areas that they specialize in include healthy hydration, paid family medical leave, nutrition, ECE, Head Start, preemption, and economic supports and maternal health. A few of them actually are on the call today, and so they're going to be answering some of your questions in the chat because they are going to be the ones providing the consultation and know some great examples of what we do. This page are going to be some of our more technical or provide tactical support to your campaign. They have expertise in policy language and research, data, communications, partnerships, maternal health, and then trainings. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Andrea's name, who hosts these large trainings as well as can host smaller trainings as well. Next slide. All right, so who is this consultation for? Hopefully, if you haven't already, by the end of this presentation, you will identify as an advocate, organization, or a coalition member that could reach out to us for support. So we support campaigns that are before, during, or after campaigns, and we're here to help. So whether you are just starting your campaign and need some support in your campaign planning, you're right in the middle of sessions, or you're an established coalition and just need a restart or hitting some roadblocks and need some new ideas or someone to talk to troubleshoot, or organizations are just getting started in the policy and advocacy space, we'd love to talk to you as well. Next slide. All right, so we're going to get into some examples. This is not an exhaustive list of the type of consultation that we could provide, but hopefully some of the examples can get you thinking about how Voices for Healthy Kids can support you in the work that you're doing. The next slide, you will see the term Power Prism quite a bit if you're engaging with us, but it's nothing that complicated. You may be familiar with a lot of what we do around this already. Is that these are tools that you can use within your advocacy campaign to build power for your mission. And we'll go through some of those in the examples. Yep, go ahead. All right, so the first one is campaign planning. Next slide. Great. So we can provide support in various ways in terms of campaign planning. This may happen at the beginning of your campaign or even maybe in the middle as you're troubleshooting, but we can help support you in centering policy efforts with community voice, making sure that they're involved from the very beginning and then throughout. Using the Power Prism as a guide for campaign planning, we have a great campaign planning template that utilizes the Power Prism and gets you thinking about all aspects of the tools that can be activated throughout your campaign, building campaign timelines, as well as incorporating the different tools and resources that we have available on our websites to make sure that you're activating your campaign throughout the whole life cycle. Next slide. All right, coalition and community engagement. Next. So some of the ways that we can help with coalition community engagement is some coalition mapping and asset inventory. This is, I think our consultants do a great job with this, is really helping you think through who is currently on your coalition, thinking about the assets of the coalition members, some of the strengths, also the weaknesses, who's missing, what are some of the tactics, amongst the Power Prism that could use some more oomph within your coalition, and making sure that you're brainstorming to make sure that all stakeholders are involved. We can also connect organizations to folks who are doing similar work and campaigns through affinity calls, and provide introductions on organizations that may be potential stakeholders. And then making sure that partnerships are equitable and that all coalition members are the give and the get, really thinking about if all organizations are contributing and not being exploited and getting what they want while contributing to the mission of the coalition. And an example of this, on the next slide, is that we have done a training with Groundwork Ohio in their Momentum Building Institute, where they have trained staff and parent advocates on the different aspects of the Power Prism. And so this is a great example of some of the coalition building community engagement work that we do, is we can provide trainings for a large scale or a specific coalition to make sure some of these things are considered. All right, research and data collection is another space that we can offer support. And we can provide, or we can researching roots of community equity and change. We can help provide similar policy successes in other states or communities, or even policy language that has been used. Research-based talking points on your policy issue. Through the AHA, we have a specific channel of science review, making sure that the talking points that we publish are science-based and that they're ready to use, and copy and paste and put them in your messaging guide or social media posts. And we also can create one-pagers through a platform called My Sidewalk that really clears out or lays out a dynamic data storytelling tool. And so if you go to the next slide, this is a static screenshot, but really through the My Sidewalk platform, we create really dynamic data storytelling pieces where we can make it really specific to your location of the campaign, whether it's local campaigns or statewide campaign, and include data from many different sources to make the report come to life. And it really targets, certain decision makers that you're trying to influence. All right, Laura, to you.
Thank you, Yui. So next we're going to dive into decision maker advocacy. So some of the consultation that we include with decision maker advocacy would be tips for meeting with lawmakers and testifying at public hearings. So it can be something as simple as just wanting some tips or some tricks on, how to best reach lawmakers and testifying in public hearings. We offer worksheets to help you research the policy making process. So It lets you know that you're never alone. Pathways of influence worksheets to help you determine the best approach to decision makers. And of course, during consultation, that's something that you would share your location. We consult as far as which decision makers you're particularly trying to reach and things of that nature. Worksheets to identify key decision makers and key positions to move your campaign, which is pretty much what I just said. You know, looking at who would be best to reach out to. It may be something that you have brought to the table or something that we can consult with you and come up with some new decision makers to add to that. And also, we provide guidance to build relationships with decision makers who may be neutral or opposed to your initiatives. And so we have a quick example where one of our consultants worked with the Squamish Foundation on some decision maker advocacy. And also we have an example of some tips for meeting with lawmakers and staff. I'm not sure if you can clearly see that, but it includes some talking points where you can briefly describe your purpose for visiting and some key points about the work that you're doing. Try to generate some conversation and discussion, explain your ask, what are you asking for, and closing the meeting. So really tailoring those tips to what you're looking for while working in decision maker advocacy. So grassroots advocacy. So with grassroots advocacy, we help with assisting with the creation of action alerts and other communications to provide engagement as policies move through the legislative process. And I know I just mentioned action alerts, but I do want to point out that even if it's something right now that you don't know that you might need an action alert or what is an action alert, just because that stands out to you, make sure you write that down and include that, because it can be something that you can be consulted with, and it might be something that you can start using. So I want to also just put that plug in that if it's something that you might not think that you may not need, write it down, because you can ask for consultation and it might actually be something that you might need. So with that being said, grassroots advocacy is also good with helping with the launch of action alerts on behalf of your coalition to the NCIT network within your respective states and or community via phone to action or nation builder. So we can do it by phone or through an email service. And also, I'm sorry, it was just one more. Text to join action alerts for advocates to engage in your campaign. Okay. And so we've included some examples of some action alerts that have been sent out on behalf of the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers. One is just a simple update on what's going on, and it's a last minute update. However, with those action alerts, you're able to get that out to your audience pretty quickly. And on the second example, as you can see, there's an active click here to take action today button, which actually would be good for your coalition when you're trying to get people more involved or to click in another space. Our next topic will be, or our next tool would be media advocacy. And so with media advocacy, we broke it down into a few parts. So we have two parts as far as some consultation you can receive through media, dealing with media advocacy. One is customized messaging using fast facts and key messages. Another one is media roundtables, press releases, op-eds and letters to the editors, story pitching, material and resource review and approval. And I'll give a quick example there. When we say material resource review and approval, sometimes you may not actually need for us to come up with something completely. It could be something that you've already been working on and you would like for us to review it. That is what we mean by material resource review and approval. So sometimes it's not always what we come up with. It's something that we work with you on, and it can be something that you've already started working on, depending on how far you are in your campaign. Either way, whether you're at the ground softening stage or far in your campaign, we're here to help. Social media consultation is also provided, and digital engagement consultation. So a continuum, I mentioned social media engagement, spokesperson coaching and training, editorial board meetings, and media or press conferences and events. So that is a good bit of what we can consult with if you're looking for media advocacy. And I want to get to a quick example. So I mentioned resource review and approval. So this first example where it says sample radio scripts, this was something that someone had already written out. It was 2 radio scripts. They were trying to work on paid family and medical leave. And so they sent over, typed out those scripts and just simply asked for some review. How do we feel about it? We weren't able to include one of the videos, but they've gone so far as to send us one of their commercialized videos to see some of our feedback on that. So that's just an example of some resource review and approval. I also mentioned press release, op-eds, and letters to the editor. I wanted to share an example of a press release that we worked on with the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. They had a really, really good win where they were advancing student health and sustainable nutrition with new wellness and good food purchasing policies. And so we were able to work with them to get this media alert and this press release out to not only people in their area or in their state, but also within our networks as well. Okay, next slide.
All right, sustainability and fundraising. Some of the ways we can support you in this aspect of your advocacy campaign is by exploring, identifying, or leveraging funding opportunities. And a good example of this is that we were working with an organization that we were funding for a policy campaign, and their grant was ending, but they really wanted to continue their coalition and keep their full-time campaign manager on staff, and really wanted help thinking through some sustainable funding sources. And so Voices for Healthy Kids was able to pull together a conversation with local American Heart Association staff, our national development folks at the AHA, and that grantee, and brainstorm some foundations that were local and national that might be interested in their work. And so if you're part of the NCAT, we'd love to help think that through with you. We can also look at sustainability through partnerships as well as through evaluation efforts.
So our health equity and racial justice. So the NCIT provides consultation on embedding health equity and racial justice into policymaking. As stated earlier, our equity vision is for children and their families to be free from oppressive conditions that limit their overall quality of life and well-being. And so achieving this bold vision includes listening to, creating a space for, centering, and trusting Black and African American, Hispanic, Latino, and Latina, American, Indian, Alaska Native, Asian American, and Pacific Islander, or from families who have low income in all areas of our work. We also have our also have our messaging guide that will be shared with you at the end of this presentation. It's our health equity message guide. Sorry, I stopped my video. It's our health equity guide. And so if you want to deep dive into our equity and racial justice consultation, that might be something that would interest you. Next slide.
All right. Okay. So like I said, we have many tools, resources, and toolkits between Voices for Healthy Kids and the NCIT. And these are just screenshots of some of our pages. And so Andrea just put a handful of links of resources that we have. One is the NCIT resources page, where we have planning materials developed, as well as links to our partner organizations who have developed some awesome resources. So check that out. We also have the NCIT YouTube channel, which has recordings of our past trainings, like the one on child tax credits that we had last week. That was fantastic. The Voices for Healthy Kids side, we have a link in there for our trainings page, which shows future trainings as well as recordings to past trainings that we've had, many of them around the Power Prism, so you check them out, as well as our resource library, which has resources that are more general or generic to campaigns, but as well as specific policy issues that we have focused on. Right, next slide. And so how to connect or how to access this consultation. We have a great landing page on our website now through the NCIT. If you go to ncit.org/consultation, it will take you to a landing page that has a lot of descriptions that we share today around the Power Prism or different tools that you can activate within your campaign. But like I said, it's not an exhaustive list of all that we do, and so don't hesitate to reach out. On that page, we have a simple form, a button to just reach out to us. And this form is really quick. There's a screenshot of it there, just your name, email, organization, policy issue areas that you're working on, what aspects of the advocacy tools are you interested in getting support, and there's also open text box. I just want to say none of these fields are required, so you don't have to have it all figured out or be too specific, but a Voices team member, once you push submit, regardless of what you enter, will reach out for initial call to make sure that you get connected to the right folks on our team to get the support that you're looking for. All right, I'll pause. I think next slide is for questions, and I've seen some great questions come through the chat. And I see Matthew, you have your hand up.
Yes, may I speak?
Yeah.
Good. I don't know how do you want to do this in order. Yes, my question is, and thank you for presenting this. I'm actually from a rural state in the New England state of Vermont, the Green Mountain state of Vermont. First of all, thank you for your presentation on it. This is something that, I wish my state would have had, because I'm involved with what you call Let's Grow Kids of Vermont, which is actually a nonprofit organization that does most of the, advocacy work for all children. Unfortunately, it's white-led. It doesn't have any racial, how should I say, justification to it. So, like I said, I wish I had this, webinar before. It's just, thank you, and I like it, this presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming off mute. And Matthew, I'd say don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to hear about some of the work that you're doing in Vermont, and we'd love to connect on that as well. So please go to our website and click on that contact us form. Absolutely. Allison, anything in the chat? I know you've been responding in there. Anything you want to point out to the entire group off mute?
Yeah, and I believe Katie as well was answering questions. So either
Hi,
one.
everyone. It's Allison Frazier. Sorry, I'm having some AT&T issues like everyone else. I'm not going to try to open my camera, but do want everyone to know that I sometimes we offer so much, it can be a little overwhelming to figure out how to use us. And I think that prevents some people from reaching out to say like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about what we're doing and see where you can best plug in is a perfectly fine place to come to us. Like, hey, I don't know what my questions are yet, but I want to meet you guys and figure out how we can connect. That is a perfectly fine place to start. So don't feel like you have to know exactly what you're looking for or have your question down pat. We're happy to just talk through with it and give suggestions of how we think we might be able to support your work.
Exactly. I saw a question that was answered in the chat, Allison, about what are there specific policy issues that we support, and really we're ready to support campaigns that are working on any prenatal to 3 policy. So I would say, we don't have a stringent list per se.
And Yui, this is Katie. I would just add, like in talking about PN3, we take a pretty broad view of that. And so things like nutrition security, food access, some of those like work policies working to expand access to Medicaid. Like some of those things might not initially be viewed as PN3 because they do impact more than just folks that are prenatal 2-3, but they really impact the health of the family. So feel free to reach out about some of those other issues too.
Yeah, I wanted to give an example, Allison, that you maybe think of is, you know, if there's a training that we hosted through Voices or NCIT that you really liked or was interested in or getting some more follow up on, we last year did a whole Power Prism training series. And after that, we had a bunch of folks reach out to us interested in doing more types of trainings like that with their coalition or the groups that they work with specifically. And so again, if it doesn't fit into one of our boxes that we have in drop down, or the examples that we gave today, or it's just anything that you, a training that you attended with us recently that you want to talk more about, another great reason to reach out to us. Let's get the chat. Go ahead, Laura.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if Stephanie wanted to come off mute, but she made a really, really good point. Stephanie, did you want to come off mute and share your comment or?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I lead our policy research team, and I just wanted to share it. Yes, as Katie mentioned, we do support or consult on a broad range of issues that touch the prenatal to 3 policy space, but we also work with a great group of partners and experts. So if you're looking for suggestions on what might be impactful, we can certainly consult with you. So please reach out.
And I just wanted to add that that's definitely one of our biggest takeaways from this. No matter how big or how small that question is, or that thought is, or what you're thinking about, or the direction you're trying to go to, we just encourage you to reach out. Like I said, we have a broad scope of what we offer, but we're trying to be able to connect with you all as close as possible. So definitely don't hesitate. And the form is not long at all. It might take 30 seconds, and you can select multiple tools. So let's say if you heard Huey talking about research and data, but you also heard me talking about decision maker advocacy, you can select both of those tools as far as something that you're looking for some consultation on.
Absolutely. And you know, one simple way that we could connect you is that we have a bunch of different peer groups, including parent and family engagement. We, now I'm going to blank on all of these, communications work group through the NCIT. We have Laura and Danny that leads our advocates working in conservative jurisdictions that offers really great support to certain states and localities. We also have affinity calls on certain policy areas where there are advocates from across the US that are working on that certain policy and are sharing best practices, successes, and even failures, and just carrying the weight of that together. So that's one way that we can also get you connected if something specific doesn't come to mind. Can you say more about the advocates working in conservative areas, Laura?
I think we have 2 questions. I'll get to this one first. Just talking more about advocates working conservative areas. So what we do is, it's a peer group. Of course, if you're not already a member of the NCIT, I know you was going to get to that at the end. We would love for you to join, and we encourage you to join, but it's a peer group of advocates working in conservative jurisdictions. So of course, that's all over the US. And what we do is we meet every other month, and we host panel discussions, or we're filling out surveys on what our peer group is looking for, what do they want to hear. We also give updates from our Write-Up Center, and they provide a lot of good information on what's happening in conservative states on the federal level, state level. They give out some interesting reads. So it's a really, really good group to be a part of and to connect with as well. We usually host our meetings about an hour every other month, but usually there's good panel discussions. I'll plug in the one that's coming up this week, actually. So we're going to be talking to some conservative lawmakers about institutional and structural racism and how it's affecting communities of colors. So you'll get an opportunity if you have any questions for some of those lawmakers that would be on that panel. But we also have had a panel of youth advocates working in conservative jurisdictions, and they were talking to some of our peer group about how we can best reach out to the youth who also want to help out with some of the work that each of you all are doing. So that's just a little bit about what we're doing with the peer group. But as we continue to grow and continue to accept and grab ideas from people a part of that group, we just continue to work that in different ways. So I hope I was able to provide some clarity to that as far as the peer group.
Yeah, and I think there's some questions in the chat, Laura, because you really piqued folks' interest, but this is the peer group of advocates working in conservative jurisdictions. And Laura and Danielle Patterson in the chat leads that group. And I'm going to put the CTC recording in here as well, because I think lived on.
Hey, Yui, I would and Laura, I would just add that that group, the conservative advocates working in conservative states or jurisdictions, happened because advocates asked for it. So if there's something particular that you need, please reach out if you want to connect with people working in rural areas or urban areas or progressive states or purple. We can sort of figure out if people want those supports and those sort of groups, we can customize them to your needs.
Yeah, and it looks like LaDon had a question about a group for community organizers. I can't think of it off the top of my head if other folks in my team can, but again, that would be a great suggestion for a group.
We also have a question of, is there an online portal, our tech tools to connect participating groups, for example, Slack or WhatsApp? Yui, I don't
love that idea. So let's take it under advisement and see what we can do. And maybe there'll be something through our website, or we can connect to things that people are already using. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think if anyone else sees something in the chat that we've missed, please shout it out. Let me know. I'm trying to get through it. So do you offer support to advocacy around elections in addition to legislation? My county is starting to have a contentious election for the Board of Education, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Allison?
Sorry, I have trouble being on mute and typing in the chat.
Yeah.
So we are releasing some election materials at the end of March, but hopefully if they're ready earlier than that, we can roll them out. And what they are just information, first of all, on what you can and can't do as a 501c3 and where those lines are. And also particularly how you get prenatal to 3 issues in conversations during elections with voters, as well as those candidates, so that they're talking about our issues. So it'll include things like, palm cards with questions, so that when you run into candidates, you know what you can ask and what you can't ask. Tips for figuring out how to connect the issues that candidates care about with PN through prenatal to 3 issues, as well as other ideas. We have found and continue to find in polling in other places that a lot of prenatal to 3 issues do cross party lines. They are popular on both sides of the aisle. In particular, we see maternal health certainly doing that and opening some doors. So using those as ways to start conversations during the election cycle is super important, not only for the elections and the issues that are being talked about, but for once people, whatever person is elected, that they know that our issue is important and we already know where they stand on it. So there'll be some trainings, as well as the materials will be sent out far and wide. But another good reason to join as an official member of NCIT, so you're sure to hear when those resources come out and are invited to the trainings.
Fantastic. And more questions are welcome to come in, but let's just go to the next slide. Let's see. There we go. Things we have coming up. We are starting a new Power Prism 2024 training series that starts March 21st. So you may have joined us last year for the sessions that we did starting in the summer, we're starting it. And whether you joined that one last year, I encourage you to join this one. Always a great way to kind of freshen up and get ready for a campaign or really dive into a topic there. And again, if you join some of those trainings and want to dive in deeper, another great way or reason to reach out to us. We also have our NCIT membership. This is one of the best ways to stay informed, engage with us, and activate a lot of the ways that the NCIT is powerful and the ways that we are collaborative. We are collaborative organizations, just like you all, and many of you may be members already, but we encourage you to join us. We have a link in the chat. It's free. We've got a lot of great benefits that you can read on the website, but it's a simple form. And once we get you processed, we'll send you a welcome email. And then we have grant opportunities open now. We just opened call for applications for policy campaign grants with Voices for Healthy Kids. That is going to be one of the links that Andrea posted. And we have 3 different opportunities. One is a more general call for applications for policy campaigns where we have some priority states, but all states and jurisdictions are welcome to apply. We have one specific to the state of Alabama and some locations in Florida. And then we have some grant opportunities specific to preemption, which is a really emerging topic that we'd love to engage with you on. So check those out. And I have not been keeping an eye on the chat. So have there been any good questions that we should
Yeah,
touch
hey
on
Yui,
before we
there's a
wrap?
question about current grantees applying. So the open call for applications. This is Shannon Maluzzo. Hi everyone, Senior Grants Administrator for Voices for Healthy Kids. Nice to see a lot of familiar names. So the open call for applications is for the policy campaigns, is for new campaigns. So if you're currently funded in an issue area or have been funded in the past for a specific issue area, say SNAP in Massachusetts, you would not be eligible for the open call for applications. But if you wanted to try a different issue area and maybe do expansion of school meals, then that's a different issue area in a same geography. You're absolutely eligible for that. So that mix-up is definitely an opportunity. For the Florida and Alabama, we'll have some more information sessions, but yes, go ahead and apply. The Florida locations are their local campaigns, and the Alabama is a statewide campaign. And then the preemption also is we're currently not funding where we're currently funding. That makes sense. So we have some active preemption grants. They're listed on our site. So we just ask that you reach out to our preemption consultant if you are looking to apply in those states, and we'll just have a conversation with you and see where we're at in those states.
Fantastic. Very active chat. Hope we didn't miss anything. But like I said, reach out to us if you have some more follow-up questions from today about our grants, anything like that. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Laura, I saw you come off mute, so I'll give you a...
Yes, no, just wanted to, someone sent me a personal message, but I'll just answer it out loud again. For one, I wanted to just re-highlight something Allison and Raquel said. Of course, like Allison said, please join us today, join the NCIT, because we do want to get to 1,000 members and celebrate with all of you. So make sure you are actively following those links and signing up. And Raquel stated that in some, you don't have to have your question already figured out, reach out, and we are here to be your thought partner. And that's exactly what this presentation was for. And hopefully we were able to kind of give you some comfortability in trusting us to be your thought partner. So make sure that you fill out those forms and reach out to us. Now, the question that I received again was about our topic that's coming up for those conservative states peer group call. Just wanted to plug that in again. So what we're doing, we're hosting a panel discussion with this peer group. And so if you can, we would like for you to join us. So it's going to be an informative panel discussion of state lawmakers to discuss the importance of addressing structural and institutional racism in conservative jurisdictions and how to construct the narrative in a way that honors communities of color. So of course, we know conversations like these don't happen too often. So we've actually broken this series down into 2. So we'll do one next week. So that's February, and we'll do the other one in April. So of course, if you can't catch that one, you can catch the other one. And so far, we'll have a state lawmaker representing the state of Georgia, Louisiana, and Alabama. So we're excited about that. And so anybody that has any extra questions about any of those peer group calls, whether it's the conservative states or any other ones, any ideas, again, like we've been preaching to the choir, reach out, reach out.
Fantastic.
Lori, do you have anything?
Yeah.
No, this was awesome. Thank you. I love people's questions and all of this. This is fabulous. Thank you.
I know we've shared a bunch of links and information in the chat, but last time I am going to put in the chat our consultation page, landing page, which has a link to the form to reach out to us. Like I said, you don't have to have all the answers or questions figured out. None of the what do you say, lines are required. So just check out the page, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, thank you all for signing up to be a part and be more informative on what we are here to offer. And thanks to all of our chat warriors for answering and keeping up with those questions.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.